She wasn't in uniform. She wasn't in the rotation. But when the SEAL laid his weapon in her hands, the room fell into stunned silence. Who was she, and what had they all missed? She wasn't in uniform. Didn't salute, didn't speak. She just cleaned what others toss aside. In the rifle bay, where noise ruled, metal clinks, tool chatter, muttered complaints about triggers and optics, she was the opposite, a quiet presence in the corner, hands stained with carbon, eyes fixed on machinery. Her badge read, Armory Support Technician, the kind that came from subcontractors, not ceremony. N01 asked her name. No one remembered if she clocked in or out. To them, she was just there, filling a slot, cleaning the failures, the rifles that jammed without reason, the systems declared good enough but never trusted again. That's what came to her table. And every time she made them whole again, no one noticed at first. The changes were too subtle. A smoother pull, a tighter pattern. Nothing flashy, just results. But still, she remained invisible. She didn't ask for range time, didn't touch anything marked active op. Contractors weren't authorized, especially not her. So she kept cleaning, fixing what was broken, silently returning weapons better than they arrived. The armory chief assumed she was someone's niece, maybe a political placement. Low-cost filler for a low-risk contract. She never corrected him. Correction would invite questions, and questions could lead to truths better left buried. She remembered the sand, the pressure-cracked frames under fire. She remembered names no one dare write down. But here, none of that mattered. Here, she was a woman who never looked up, the one wiping down forgotten steel. Then came the SEALs. They brought different silence with them. Tactical, measured, watchful. Their gear didn't just demand expertise, that IT required understanding. Modified Mk-18S, calibrated optics for heat shimmer, fire controls tuned by memory. Every weapon, a reflection of the operator. They dropped them off casually, expecting excellence, demanding trust. And without hesitation, she took them. No clipboard, no questions. Just responsibility in its rawest form. One rifle sat at the edge of her tray for hours, a beast of carbon and brass, too jammed for even the lead armor to risk. Every dollar of its mods choking beneath corrosion. She didn't flinch, didn't even sigh. She picked it up, laid out her tools, not the issued ones, the real ones, and began a thin curve pick no one had seen before. A grip angle too precise to be factory built. Movements fast, but never rushed. Petty Officer Marcus, Rivera noticed. 20 years in, he'd seen real hands at work. This wasn't luck. This wasn't training. This was memory. He watched. 1 minute. 2. Then he did the unthinkable. He unslung his own rifle. The one he never let anyone touch. The one tuned to his heartbeat. Walked over. Sat down on her table. Let her finish. The room froze. Wrenches stopped mid-turn. Voices cut short. One operator half laughed, then swallowed it. Silence. Not ordered. Earned. She said nothing. Just ran her fingers across the rifle. Eyes down, listening more than seeing. A soft breath. A whisper of pressure on a gas block. A crack. A fracture no scanner would catch. Registered under her thumb. 10 minutes later, the weapon gleamed. And she didn't hand it back. She set it on his side of the bench and walked away. No smile, no nod. Just finality. And that's when the bass began to change. Not loud, not sudden, but something old had stirred. Something the uniforms forgot existed. It wasn't about a rifle. IT wasn't about Rivera. It was about her. The woman they never called by name. Who was she, and what had they all missed? Next morning, the bench was spotless. But something had changed. Not in the tools, not in the rifles. In the air, operators still came and went. But now they paused. Eyes flickered toward the corner, noticing what they'd ignored for months. Avery didn't act different. She wore the same dark cap, same gray gloves, same silence. But the way they watched her, it wasn't dismissal anymore. It was calculation. Petty Officer Rivera hadn't said another word. He didn't need to. The message was in the act. She was trusted, and in their world, trust was currency. Someone left a custom scar on her bench. No words, just placement, like an offering. She disassembled it like it was breathing, felt the bolt lag before it showed itself. Adjusted recoil flow by sound, not sight. Behind her, soft footsteps. A younger SEAL, maybe 25, arms folded, skeptical. You ever shoot one of those? She didn't look up. No, then how do you know what it needs? Pause. She rotated the chamber slightly. I listened. It wasn't sass. It wasn't attitude. It was fact. He stared, opened his mouth, then closed it, walked away slower than he came. Some began testing her, leaving notes tucked inside gun cases. Heat drift solve? Trigger feels late on release. She never responded in ink. Her reply came through the weapon itself. Return like new. No, better than new. Personalized. Tuned like a violin for one hand only. Still, no one called her technician. Or Mississippi, just glances, just pauses. But one man noticed more than most. Staff Sergeant Camden Locke, part of internal logistics ex-Marine, now overseeing armory flow. He watched the logs, her check-ins, her timestamps. She's doing triple output, without range access. The others shrugged. Maybe she's bored. But Locke wasn't buying it. That evening, he passed her table, pretended to drop a wrench. As he bent to retrieve it, his eye caught a faded scar high along her left wrist. Burned deep, curved like the edge of an explosion plate. Only a few types of missions left marks like that. He straightened, watching her closely. You served? Avery paused. Still no eye contact. Sort of. That was it. Not defensive. Not apologetic. Just enough. A week passed. More SEALs began choosing her over the official armor. No formal switch. Just habit. The lead armor grumbled. She's not even certified. But Rivera just said, she's more than that. Someone hung a small rag near her tray, embroidered in red thread. Let her finish. No one admitted who sewed it. No one removed it. The quote had become code. For silence. For skill. For earned ground. But it wasn't just about rifles anymore. That IT was about presence. Operators began asking for her before deployment. A kind of quiet ritual. One final check. By the hands that felt danger, she never asked their names. Never shared stories. But each time she lifted a weapon, her fingers paused. Like they were remembering something. Like they were telling it. I've seen worse. I've been there. And though no one said it, they all started believing it. Even the new recruits, the ones who'd whispered jokes weeks before, now waited in line, rifles in hand, eyes respectful, because sometimes the first steps toward truth aren't loud. They're noticed. The whisper came from the records room. A night shift tech, sipping stale coffee, open her file. Not the contractor version. The real one, accessed through 3 layers of clearance. And even then, half the lines were redacted. Camden Locke saw the look on the tech's face. What is it? She's not who we thought. What do you mean? The tech turned the screen toward him. A phrase stared back in classified font. Former SOTB field armor, retired, not discharged. Locke blinked. SOTB, Special Operations Team Black. The unit that didn't officially exist. Operators whispered to them like legends. The kind of missions that didn't make after-action reports. Where failure meant funerals with empty caskets. She'd been one of them. Meanwhile, in the Bay, Avery was working on a thermal-integrated M110, a weapon only assigned to units operating beyond the border. Her hands didn't shake, but her breath was shallow. The fracture near the barrel mount mirrored one she'd seen in Kandahar, where 2 squads didn't return, where silence wasn't protocol. It was consequence. She paused, only for a second, then kept working. The armory chief finally pushed back. This isn't standard, he snapped. She's doing live prep on Tier 1 gear. She's not cleared for that. Rivera stood across the room. She is now. Based on what? A hunch. Rivera walked over slowly, pulled a folded paper from his pocket, laid it on the desk. It was her clearance, signed, triple authenticated. The signature at the bottom, Brigadier General I.D. Walsh. The chief's face paled. You went above me? No, Rivera said. I went where she used to be. But not everyone liked the shift. A junior SEAL named Denton, young, eager, insecure, made his move. One evening, while Avery worked, he leaned in. Let me guess, you're some kind of ghost, right? One of those black badge myths. She didn't respond. He smirked. Maybe you're just really good at cleaning. Or maybe someone died and you slipped through the cracks. His words were sharp, not because he believed them, but because he needed to believe she wasn't better. Her fingers didn't stop moving, but her eyes lifted. Just once. And that single glance shut him up. Later that week, Camden pulled Rivera aside. I read the file. Rivera didn't ask which one. Kandahar, Camden whispered. Rivera exhaled slowly. She was the only one who walked out. A long silence. Why is she here? Camden asked. Rivera looked toward the bay. Because ghosts need places too. Avery kept working. But some nights, her hands slowed. The sound of wind over sand echoed in her ears. The scream of metal under fire. The last radio call. Jammed, can't fire, falling back, and then nothing. She carried it all. In her knuckles. In her spine. In the spaces between each breath. That's why her fixes were flawless. Not because she was perfect, because she'd seen what imperfection cost. One evening, a SEAL brought in a rifle and said softly, Don't know what's wrong, but I trust you'll feel it. She took it, held it, paused. I will. That was all. But his eyes glossed, because somehow it felt like more than repair. IT felt like protection. In a world full of rank and reputation, she had neither. Only memory. Only hands. But more and more, those hands were being trusted with lives. Still no nameplate. Still no salute. But now, operators waited in silence, just to see if she would nod. Because sometimes, a ghost doesn't need to speak to haunt the living back into respect. The rain came suddenly. Sharp, slanted sheets slapping the metal roof of the rifle bay. It was a kind of storm that silenced even machines. Inside, the light flickered. Avery kept working. The weapon on her tray wasn't like the others. Its weight was wrong. The barrel, too clean, the serial, burned off. A whisper behind her. Classified drop. Rivera said, straight from forward unit. Needs prep within the hour. She didn't blink. Didn't ask. She just reached out, took the rifle, and laid it down like it was human. But this time, her hands hesitated. There was something about the frame, the balance, the trigger tension. Then it hit her that she'd built this rifle. Not just one like it. This exact one. Years ago, outside Jalabad, IT had been for a recon operator named Mason Tarlow, and he died using it. She froze. Her gloves trembled. A ghost from her past had just come home. Rivera noticed. He stepped forward, quiet. What is it? She didn't answer. She just turned the rifle over and ran her finger along the gas system. The etching was still there, barely visible now. A small cross scratched into the metal near the bolt release. She remembered when she made that mark. Tarlow had asked for it. In case I don't come back, he'd said. Let someone know I mattered. And he didn't. His death had been listed as equipment malfunction. They blamed her. She had disappeared after that op. Not dishonorably. Just vanished. Now the rifle was back. Silent proof that her work had not failed. That he had died for other reasons. Her breath shallowed. She began disassembly. Every pin came loose like memory. Every scratch told a story. Inside the receiver, a fragment lodged, not carbon, a sliver of bone. She held it in her palm. The bay went quiet. Operators noticed. No one moved. Even Denton stood still. What is that? Someone whispered. She didn't answer. She just reached into a side pouch, pulled a small, flat cloth, wrapped the fragment, placed it beside the rifle. Then she stood. The first time anyone saw her full height. She walked straight to the front desk, and without ceremony laid the rifle down. Alongside it, the cloth. Then she looked up at the armory chief. "Tarlo didn't die because of my work," she said. "He died because of your timeline." The words hit like gunfire. Fast, precise, unflinching. The chief stuttered. I didn't... But she was already turning away. Rivera stepped in. "You knew." She nodded once. "I built it for him, Dot. I warned them it needed calibration. They pushed him out anyway. And you disappeared. I was told to." A pause, thick with weight. "You gonna disappear again?" She looked at him. Not cold, not broken, just tired. "No, that night," Rivera gathered the team. No uniforms, no rank, just men who'd seen fire and silence alike. He told them the truth. Told them who she was, where she came from, what she carried, and how she never dropped it. The next morning, a new tray appeared beside her station. Inside, an M4 with a regular recoil, a suppressor that rang instead of thudded, a note, "Only you." No name, no signature, but the trust was loud. For once, louder than the war in her memory. For the first time, they waited for her. The SEAL team gathered early. Gear cleaned, silence thick, and no one checked their scopes. No one complained about optics. They stood near the bay like it was sacred, because today, each of them would hand their rifle to her, one by one, not as an order, but as a choice. Avery said nothing. She wore her same gloves, same cap, same unmarked badge, but her movements had shifted. There was rhythm now, a calm tempo only seen in surgeons, or mortarmen, or people who'd already buried too much. She adjusted dust covers without speaking, swapped out bolts without testing. Every rifle sang when she was done. Denton approached next. He looked unsure, hands tight on his weapon, but he stepped forward anyway. "I was wrong," he said. She glanced up, just briefly, then held out her hand. He gave her the rifle, the smallest tremble in his fingers. She fixed it in minutes, then said softly, "Don't wait to say that next time." He nodded and walked away slower, straighter. That evening, Rivera called her in, not to the bay, to the comms room. Inside, live feed, helmet cam. A field unit, under fire, begging for support. "Our rifles are jamming. Optics are off. Can't see the ridge. We're blind." The audio cut. Rivera's jaw clenched. He turned to her. "That's your batch." She didn't flinch. "No, it's not." He stared. She opened her log, flipped pages, slid the form across. "Those weren't cleared. Chief overrode my delay stamp. Sent them out unfinished." Rivera's eyes hardened. He radioed command. "I need authorization to pull Avery's backup rack." Silence. Then affirmative. Avery walked into the vault, where her own designs lived. Not military issue. Her standards, rifles with internal reinforcements, dampened noise controls, anti-drift optics with microcompensators. She laid them out on the bench. "This is what should have gone out." Rivera nodded. "I'll fly them myself." "No," she said. He frowned. "I will." 2 hours later, a chopper cut through desert wind. Inside, Avery, silent, focused. She hadn't left the base in 3 years. But some ghosts walk willingly when lives depend on what only they know. They landed 3 clicks out. Team Bravo pinned behind a sand crest. One man bleeding. The others stuck. Avery stepped off without hesitation. Gear in hand. No weapon of her own, just solutions. She dropped behind the team's cover. Laid out replacements. Adjusted scopes mid-fire. Wiped bolts clean with precision faster than panic. One by one, rifles came back to life, like soldiers exhaling after trauma. The team looked at her, not like a tech, not even like a soldier, like something older, quieter, deadlier. When they reached safety, the lieutenant pulled Rivera aside. "Who is she?" Rivera just smiled. "Someone we should have never forgotten." Back at base, a small brass plate was being installed. Custom rack. Reinforced wood, one rifle placed at its center. Rivera's. Restored. Untouched since the first time, he said. Let her finish. The bay was quiet again. But this time, not because of indifference, because of reverence. Operators moved slower near her corner. Conversations hushed when she passed. No one shouted across her table anymore. Respect had settled in like smoke after fire. Her rack remained untouched. Rivera's rifle sat at the center, polished. Beneath it, a brass plate. Let her finish. No signature. No photo. Just those 3 words I command. A story. A legacy. The armory chief resigned 2 weeks later. He didn't leave with honors. He left with silence. Camden Locke was promoted. His first order? A new protocol. No weapon deployed until the lane certifies. Not because of regulation, because of wisdom. One morning, a new recruit approached her. He stammered. Ma'am, Technician Delane, can I ask how you know what to fix before we even tell you? She looked up, paused, then simply said, I don't fix rifles. I fix what they remember. The recruit blinked and somehow understood. She still didn't wear a title, didn't claim a rank, but word traveled beyond the base. Other teams began requesting her, quietly, through coded notes. Can we borrow the ghost? Rivera chuckled when he saw one. You're becoming legend again, he said. She shook her head. No, legends die. Tools stay useful. One day, she received a crate and a return address. No markings, just a sealed envelope inside. Inside, a coin black onyx. One side engraved, SOTB, you never left. No note, no command. But she understood, and for the first time in years, she placed it in her top drawer beside the tool she never used anymore, the curved pick. That evening, Rivera found her sitting outside the bay, not working, just watching the sunset. Strange sight, he said. You sitting still. She didn't smile, but she didn't look tired either. I think they'll be all right now, she whispered. He nodded. You ever think about going back? To war? No, to yourself. She thought for a moment, then closed her eyes. I never left. They just forgot where I was. Before she turned in for the night, she walked past her own rack, ran her hand along the edge. Not to clean, just to feel, because wood remembers warmth, steel remembers hands, and silence remembers everything. She didn't say goodbye, didn't pack up, just returned to the same bench, picked up a battered sidearm, one someone called unfixable, and began again, because some people serve without orders, without flags, without noise, and some heroes leave no shadow behind, except in the shape of a rifle that never jams again. Respect isn't asked for, it's earned in silence and remembered in steel.